Living a double life, not my biggest regret. You are.
The other day I was rewatching Euphoria, and I realized there's something it absolutely nails that no one really talks about, and it's the difference between this and this.
You know, I have a lot of regrets in my life. But I gotta tell you, Jules, meeting you has got to be at the top of my fucking list.
As you can see, both scenes show characters in crisis confronting loved ones. But what interests me here is what sets them apart.
What?
The intentionality and the tone. Because while Rue's scene strives for the rawest realism,
This is bad. This is really, really bad.
Cal's is almost the opposite, leaning into straight up over the top theatricality.
I eat what I kill.
And they're easy to compare because both scenes happen almost back to back.
Jules told me everything.
Cal's at the end of episode 4, and Rue's literally at the start of episode 5, as they are right next to each other. And the lead up for both characters is pretty similar. They drink themselves into oblivion to escape reality, and end up connecting in some way with the person they miss most, the one whose memory makes their lives unbearable. Rue imagines hugging her father, while Cal envisions hugging Derek. And the fact that these scenes are so similar makes the difference in their approach stand out even more.
Where did you put it? Where'd you put my pills, Mom?
Where did you put it? I'm calling the police.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
First, you can see it in the acting, where the dialogue in Rue's scene overlaps chaotically.
It wasn't mine!
Then whose is it?
This is because Rue's scene breaks away from the many visual artifices that typically define Euphoria and its signature way of stylizing situations. Instead, it becomes rawer and more naturalistic. In this sense, the handheld camera plays a big role in building this feeling,
You wish I was different?
moving dynamically, almost revealing its presence in a way that feels more like a Cassavetes film. It doesn't focus on creating harmonious frames, but instead serves the performances, which is often the case in scenes that rely heavily on improvisation, to the point it feels closer to a documentary style, as this camera work aims to bring us closer to the idea of reality and authenticity. This contrasts sharply with Cal's scene.
I was just telling your mother that I think I'm very lonely.
I mean, his tone and delivery are deliberately theatrical, like something out of a stage play.
I think I'm lonely.
And contrary to what many might think, I believe such theatricality is fantastic.
What?
So today I want to dive into what makes this scene so great, because I know Sam Levinson's name might be a bit tarnished by some controversies, and especially that one show we all want to forget.
Let me catch you looking at her again. Let me catch you looking at her again.
I'm not.
Let me catch you looking at her again.
But the truth is,
Welcome home. Hi, Tyler.
there are areas where Levinson delivers things few mainstream filmmakers out there can. Take this scene, for example. Now, compare it to this other one. Pretty similar situations, right? Both are pivotal moments for Nate's character, with masculinity and identity as the central themes.
Did you seriously think you could girl and nobody would do anything?
In the first one, Nate is confronting a guy he claims crossed a line with Maddie. Whereas in the second, after being threatened by Rue,
I want you to leave Fez alone. I want you to leave Jules alone.
and accused by his father of losing control during a game,
You may have won the game, but you lost control of the team.
he has a breakdown.
Keep it up.
In both scenes, it's two men in a room, one dominating the other. And even the framing is similar. Lateral shots, mirrors in the background, reflecting Nate, and a line splitting the composition down the middle. But what changes is Nate's position. In the first scene, he stares at himself in the mirror after confronting someone he claims wronged his girlfriend. This is his peak moment, a point where he affirms his masculinity. And that act of looking at himself reinforces his identity. In the second scene, however, he's under his father. And do you know what happens right before his breakdown? He looks at himself in the mirror. It's a moment where his masculinity feels threatened. Not only is he being overpowered by another man, but this takes on even greater weight when, in season 2, we learn about his dream. I mean, the entire scene suggests underlying dynamics from the start.
You need to take a step back, Nate.
With Nate in his underwear, in a room, a visual that draws parallels to other moments involving Cal. And when he loses the fight, looking at himself in the mirror becomes a moment of reckoning with his worst nightmare, triggering his breakdown. It's a turning point, where the rift between father and son starts to grow even wider, a crack that will continue to expand until it leads to this moment,
I'm so sorry I f***ed you up with my double life.
where the break becomes final. And that's what I want to talk about today. But before we dive into the breakdown, let me share something that's been a game changer in my daily routine. The Everyday Earbuds by Raycon, the sponsor of today's video. Because if you're like me and like going for walks to find inspiration while listening to music or podcasts, these earbuds are perfect for you. Whether I'm traveling, working out, or on my PC, I've been using them constantly lately. And I think it's probably thanks to their ergonomic design, which you can tweak to your liking, something I haven't seen with other earbuds in this class. And since I live with other people at home, the noise cancellation has been amazing and has really helped me tune out distractions and stay focused. And the best part is that I don't have to stress about charging them all the time, thanks to their 32 hours of battery life and the quick charge feature, which is a total lifesaver, to the point that just 10 minutes gives you an hour and a half of use. Plus they come in multiple colors, which you can customize even further with their protective cases, available in various designs, like this yellow one I chose, which I think looks really cool. So, if you're looking for earbuds that offer premium quality at a much more affordable price than other options out there, you're in luck, because this Black Friday, these earbuds are even more accessible. So, this is your chance. Head over to buyraycon.com/Lancelloti today and score up to 30% off site-wide. Yep, that's right. You can get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's site thanks to Black Friday by visiting buyraycon.com/Lancelloti, a link you can find in the description box. And I'm sure it'll be one of those purchases you'll use and love all year long. Now, let's jump into the scene. The moment kicks off with Cal returning home after a wild night at the bar, sparked by the realization that he has no idea where the disc he filmed with Jules is gone.
I just want the disc.
And I don't know shit about no disc, man. It's not my problem.
That's when his carefully constructed world starts to implode. First thing he does, he slams the door shut and starts laughing, a bold move that hits hard because it's so wildly different from his usual demeanor. And this is something I really like about how the character is portrayed on an acting level.
I'm not asking you.
Up until now,
I'm asking her.
Cal's been this hyper-controlled figure, to the point where, if you listen to him,
Did you do it?
he almost sounds like a robot reciting memorized lines.
You want to tell me why some punk drug dealer beat you up?
Sure you want to have this conversation?
Yeah, Nate, I do. Yeah, Nate, I do. Look, Nate, we all make mistakes in life.
Why do you think I have the business I have? Why do you think I have the family I have? The success that I have?
Even when he's getting his skull bashed in.
I'm extremely confused.
And it gives him this uncanny performative vibe, like he's always playing a part, which is perfect for this character. He's not just suppressing emotions, he's suppressing everything, playing a role in a story that isn't his. But in this episode, that facade cracks. Anyway, when Cal arrives, his next action is to blatantly pee on the floor. Obviously, it's a shameless gesture of contempt toward his home that doesn't need any explanation, but it's captured in the widest shot of the scene to emphasize the space. And right then, Marcia walks in.
What are you doing?
And this moment establishes a visual dynamic that repeats throughout the scene. Marcia is positioned above Cal, and the high-angle shots make him look downright pitiful, as if we're observing him from a place of superiority, almost as though he's trapped in his own surroundings.
Cal, what is wrong with you?
Then, he delivers a brutal line.
I think I'm lonely.
The impact here isn't just in what he says, but how he says it. He trades his previous playful delivery for a tone of pure seriousness. And because of the way it is shot, it almost feels like he breaks the fourth wall, something this season loves to do with its meta style. And I don't want to frame this as a strict analysis, but rather as a personal interpretation. But I really like the choice to have him practically look straight into the camera, almost as if he's staring directly at us, the audience.
I think I'm lonely.
I mean, the shot itself feels intensely theatrical, with the wooden floor from earlier shots now replaced by a dark backdrop that emphasizes his loneliness, while also making him appear as though he's standing under a spotlight.
What?
I think I'm lonely.
Even the way he repeats his lines feels like a callback to the staging style we saw earlier in this episode.
Why are you so judgmental?
Why are you so judgmental?
I wasn't judging you.
The scenes where Lexi prepares her play. At the end of the day, the climax of this season is anticlimactic narratively for most storylines, but it's much more about exposing the characters. That's why the final crisis for a lot of them happens after they are forced to see themselves on stage, especially in Nate's case. For Cal, this scene is his moment of exposure, where he finally shows who he really is. Maybe that's why the answer to this,
I'm not gonna ask you again. Put your penis away.
is simply,
I am who I am.
and I know it might sound like overanalysis, but the fact that Cal reveals his sexuality to his family in such a vulnerable and unguarded way adds an extra layer of weight to the moment.
Yo, Dad, what the are you doing?
I was just telling your mother that I think I'm very lonely.
Once again, I have to highlight Cal's performance, which you can even see in other moments of the episode like this one.
Wear a seatbelt.
Okay, Dad.
By the way, it might sound like a silly line, but I like how it feels like a sort of regression to the past.
Dinner's on the table.
That's why he takes the car he drove when he was young, goes to the bar he used to visit, and imagines the love he had back then. But there's something else, a long-anticipated power shift between him and Nate.
I want to
I
apologize.
don't need your apologies.
Now, the roles have flipped, because compared to the first season, Nate's the one in control, and even the wardrobe highlights this reversal, to the point Cal's now wearing the same headband Nate used to wear.
Okay, Cal, this is not funny.
What's going on?
Dad's standing in the foyer with his dick out.
And this contrast becomes even more evident when Nate enters the scene. Here, the logic of spectators watching a pathetic spectacle is reinforced, almost like a zoo dynamic, where his family looks down at Cal from above in a composition that traps him in a cage, with the bars of the railing emphasizing this idea.
You know what you three are looking at? The man with no name.
At first, that line might seem totally random, but it's interesting because, as some of you might know, the man with no name is Clint Eastwood's character in Leone's trilogy. And over time, though, it's become a term used to describe the archetype of the anti-hero in westerns. A mysterious, quiet type whose identity is a complete enigma. And maybe that's how Cal sees himself, which is why in the scene right before this, when he leaves the bar, there's that quick moment where he gets into his car and glances at a mural of John Wayne, who winks at him. It's also curious that this particular character is painted there, as he represents an aspirational prototype of masculinity in modern Western culture. But the thing is, on a literal level, Cal is actually the man with no name. I mean, the label fits for someone living a double life, where he uses an alias. To his family and everyone around him, he's as enigmatic as Clint Eastwood's character when he rides into a new town.
You guys should have seen me tonight. I don't know if you would have been proud.
On the other hand, there's something really interesting happening with the costumes and production design. Because Nate's house, compared to others we see in Euphoria, is much more minimalistic, with plain textures and smooth surfaces, which makes it feel colder and more impersonal. Almost like something out of a furniture catalog, with a muted color palette of grays, some creams, and a hint of blue. It's not just because the Jacobs are wealthy, but because the show is clearly aiming to create a cold, but more importantly, artificial atmosphere, as if the house itself is a lie. You just have to compare it to how the house feels after Cal leaves and Nate is left alone with his mom. It suddenly feels way more alive.
Why is it that you only have the bad qualities of your father and none of the good qualities?
And the same logic extends to the costumes. Marcia, Aaron, and Nate are each dressed in a single monochromatic color, with Nate dressed in white, which takes on significance as the scene plays out. Meanwhile, Cal is wearing a dark outfit, but with different shades and tones. Maybe because he's accepted his shades of gray in contrast to the others.
I am 100% Nate.
Because that's really what he's doing here, embracing who he is.
You know how many men I've...
What?
Cal, stop it.
Aaron?
Please stop.
Do you know how many men I've...
And once everyone is gathered, we get to see each family member's reaction. And the blocking tells us a lot about their relationship with Cal's secrets.
Dad, why are you saying this?
Aaron stays upstairs, continuing in his role as an observer, likely learning all of this for the first time. Marcia, on the other hand, comes down the stairs to join in, trying to put out the fire.
Cal, stop it.
She probably has a sense of what Cal is about to reveal, and doesn't want it all coming to light. In a way, she's no longer just an observer, but an active participant, literally and symbolically lowering herself. And then there's Nate, who steps aside, Maybe because he wants everything to finally come out into the open.
What the is wrong with you? Who the fuck are you?
Once he's made his big declaration, that's when the second half of the scene kicks off. And it's no coincidence that right after Cal reveals his sexuality, he finally puts his penis away after being exposed for 5 minutes.
Here's the funny thing. If I said tonight that I went to the strip club and I picked up a real grade A piece of ass.
Here, the camera shifts back to framing Cal in a wide shot, almost mirroring the composition and movement from the beginning of the scene, perhaps as a sign of a new beginning.
You wouldn't be 1/10 as appalled as you are right now.
At first, he's the pathetic father, seen from above by his family, but now, in this second half, it's no longer about exposing himself, but about exposing his family.
You wouldn't be standing here saying, "Dad, what are you talking about?" You'd be like, "Dad, don't say that in front of Mom." You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites.
That's why he's now framed from below, looking upward. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as his status begins to rise and his children's begins to fall, he's literally ascending, placing himself on equal footing with them.
Living a double life, not my biggest regret.
And here we reach the most impactful line of the scene.
You are.
Although, it gains even more depth by the end of the season, where Cal delves into it a bit further.
And I should have protected you. I should have kept you safe, and I didn't.
And there's nothing I regret more. But let's be honest, we all live double lives. Don't give me that look, Marcia.
Nate doesn't respond. In fact, no one does. From this point on, none of the other characters speak again, reinforcing the almost monologue-like nature of the scene.
I mean, we all have secrets.
The acting, the rhythm, everything feels almost rehearsed by Cal, and I like that because it gives the impression that these are premeditated thoughts, as if he's finally unloading something he's been carrying for years. This is why I think it was such a smart choice not to go for a naturalistic tone, like the one used in Rue's scene. It works perfectly here because if there's one thing that defines this family, it's that they're riddled with lies. So it makes sense to lean into artificiality, even when truths are being spoken.
I'm not doing well. I'm really not doing well.
And this is something Levinson has explored before, especially in Malcolm and Marie, which he made during the break between the 2 seasons of Euphoria.
It's not normal. It's not healthy, and it permeates every aspect of our relationship.
In that film, he plays with the idea of exaggeratedly long dialogues that feel like lines straight out of a stage play.
Feels good to know that you were loved by somebody other than just me. I'm not standing here looking at you like, how could you?
Anyway, after exposing Marcia and Aaron's respective secrets, it's Nate's turn.
Nathaniel, your whole life's a secret. A mystery. Who knows about you?
For the first time in the scene, the camera emphasizes him with a dolly in, drawing attention to him.
I know nothing about you.
At this moment, his wardrobe starts to make sense. It's as if, in Cal's eyes, Nate is nothing more than an empty canvas.
I have a problem. But the reason I have a problem is this family. That's why.
To close the scene, Cal delivers this line.
But you know what? I think you set me free.
And here, the theme running through the entire episode, freedom, becomes even more central. Cal ultimately accepts who he is, symbolized by his exit from the house after a lifetime spent confined to hotel rooms. But that freedom won't last long.
I just want revenge.
What does that mean?
By the end of the 2nd season,
What is that?
there's a tragically ironic punishment for a character who has spent his life feeling trapped, because after finally tasting freedom, he ends up locked up again. And I can't think of a more ironically fitting ending for this character, nor a better form of revenge by Nate. In their final interaction, the camera pans from Cal leaving to Nate, who, just like his father in his youth, still doesn't accept himself, and is therefore not free. He's trapped in that house, and the visuals reinforce this idea, to the point that when his brother leaves the frame, Nate is left alone, caged in that house like a prisoner in a uniform. It makes perfect sense that their next encounter will involve Nate taking that freedom away.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
With this video, I'm not trying to paint Euphoria as a masterpiece. And I know this analysis isn't as surgical with every frame as some of my other scene breakdowns have been, but I didn't want to let this scene pass without highlighting the things I think the series does really well. Because it's not every day that an ultra-popular teen show, featuring some of the biggest stars of the moment, has artistic intentions behind it. And that's something to celebrate, which is exactly what inspired this video. So, for my part, I can't wait for the 3rd season. And the big question that excites me the most is how Nate's arc will continue. Will he carry on the curse of his family name? Or, even worse, will he become a man without one?